Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, July 7th. If you can stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, and at this time, we will open the meeting to public comments. We respectfully request the items already on the agenda not be addressed, and that your comments be limited to 3 minutes so everyone has the opportunity to address the board. Later in the agenda, there will be a second opportunity to address items raised on the meeting, during the meeting. Public comments. Do we have any?
Good evening. I'm Wayne Sylvester. I live on Micah Terrace. And back on May 5th, you people on a 2-to-1 vote went and granted me an abatement on taxes. And I appreciated that. And I paid my taxes like a week ago. But when I saw my tax bill for 2025, it went from the abated price, which Matt had made the motion at $875, back to the original price by Avatar at $936.3. And I thought, why did that happen? And I was under the impression that when you receive an abatement, and I accept the fact, Rich made it at that meeting, I wasn't at that meeting on the 5th, that an abatement is good for 1 year. No argument. But what happens is that if an abatement is given by the Board of Selectmen, who's charged by the state is to assess all properties in the state of New Hampshire, then they most always go and have another company go and do the actual assessing, as Milton does, all right? So the abatement was for $875. However, it reverted back in 25 to that $936.3. Andy was under the assumption on the meeting on June 16th that when you get an abatement, that abated price is good for the duration of the cycle of the assessment for the next 4 years. And people disagreed. Humphrey disagreed. He said, no, an abatement's for 1 year. Rich said the same thing. And he said, an abatement is not perpetual. I agree. And an abatement can change. I agree. So that if a person went and put a garage on, they know that their assessment's going to change. If they go and put on a deck or whatever, the assessment's going to change. But once you go and grant an abatement, then that abated price, that assessment, should remain for the cycle, all right, of the assessment, period. So that's what Andy thought, that's what I believe to be true. Humphrey disagreed, and I think probably Rich disagreed. And he said, well, you know, we got to look at all the properties, and I have done that. So I've looked at all the properties in the area. As much as today, I went on Zillow and got all the current ones. And I did go and ask, all right, Barbara Marsh, who's a realtor in town, has been doing the work for over 20 years, to do a market analysis. And Rich went and made the statement, well, a market analysis is not an assessment. Well, that may or may not be true, all right? But when you put a house on a market, you don't go and get an appraisal right off the bat, not usually. You go and you call a realtor, you bring them in, and they tell you what they think the house is worth. And then you go from there. So Barbara came in and said, I think you're going to get X to Y. And I said, okay. But what the comments came out on the 16th, and I wasn't here for that meeting, that, you know, the abatement is good for a year. And Humphrey said, I don't know of any towns that grant an abatement for more than 1 year. Well, I do. And one of them is Milton. So that back in 2019, the selectmen, Claudine, Andy, and Matt, granted an abatement that went from 513 to 236A. And you will see on that 513 went down to 436.8 in 2020, and it was 436.8 in 21 and 436, 8, and 22, and in 23. On the second page, you will see another house on Micah Terrace, a couple houses down from Humphrey and a couple up from me, the Morencis. And you people, the three of them, voted an abatement from 317 to 302. And that abated price remained in 2021, 22, and 23. Well, I didn't know if that would be enough to convince you that an abatement is good for the life of the cycle, so I called the assessing office in Lebanon and spoke to Lynn Davis, who's one of the administrative assistants for the Board of Selectmen. And she said, well, that's my understanding, but you should call the John O'Donnell Agency because they handle our assessing. So I called John O'Donnell's agency, and they said it was probably just a clerical error. Well, it wasn't a clerical error. And I think it's a difference in philosophy or fact that abatements should extend beyond that 1 year. So I said, well, I called Middleton. They also use Avatar. I spoke to the assessor there. And she told me, no, once the selectmen go and grant the abatement, unless things change, meaning, all right, you've done things to your property, that assessment remains for the next 4 years. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good right now. But I said, I'm going to check again. So I called Wakefield. And the assessor there went and said that, and I also told him that I was told that if I didn't like the results of the abatement, I could appeal it to the state. And she said, that's true, but you appeal it to the state when either the abatement is denied or the abated price approved by the Board of Selectmen is not what you agree with. Not because they went and changed the abatement price back to the original assessment. And I'm there, okay. And I said, well, I'm going to call the city of Rochester. So I called them, and they said the same thing that I have just repeated twice. And I said, well, I'm going to do one more. So I called New Durham, the assessor in New Durham. She was extremely helpful and really knowledgeable. She does the assessing for New Durham, Merrymeeting Lake, Lake Conestoga, north of Winnipesaukee, and she does northern Winnipesaukee in Moultonborough. And she said, absolutely, once the Board of Selectmen approve, all right, an abatement, that abatement remains. And that's where I stand. Now, I know that Humphrey went and made the statement, well, you got to look at all the properties around. I did. All right? I'm assessed at 936.3. The properties that are available right now are at 25 Porter Lane, 795, 16 Hideaway at 739, 10 3rd Street at 575. So those are the ones that are there. Barbara Marsh went and looked at all the properties from the point that I filed the abatement until January of 25. And a property sold in Utah for $796. One at 20 Hideaway sold for $735. One at 7 Micah Terrace sold for $747. One at 280 Boland Road sold for $696. I don't see any numbers there that look like 936.3. So I would ask, I guess, you to consider that abated price of $875 that you agreed to on May 5th, right, would be the price, the assessment, until 2029. Now, I've got to tell you that in 2019, the three selectmen were Claudine, Andy, and Matt, as I said, and it was a 3-0 vote. I don't care about the split vote, but there is a heck of a difference, all right, between 875 and 936. Thank you.
Okay, up next. I'll take that under advisement. Yeah, I know. I'll take that under advisement. Up next.
I will yield the balance of my 3 minutes back to Wayne. Very quickly, July is an interesting month. July 7th, 1860, the last slave ship came into Mobile Bay in Alabama, was burned and scuttled. In 1940, the last survivor of those enslaved people died in Mobile, Alabama. There is a Remembrance Society for Africa Town still down there. July 10th, this Scopes trial began in Tennessee. Mr. Snopes was eventually acquitted on a technicality. Interesting how democracy works.
Any other public comments?
Good evening, Richard Glover from Ripley Lane. Andy, I had a question for you at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Okay.
What did you get for an answer for me?
It's on the thing for tonight.
It's on the,
Item number 4 on the agenda.
I didn't get an agenda, I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, that's fine.
it's nice seeing you anyways.
That, I'll take the rest of the 3 minutes. I went to the town website for the planning board. All I have to do is click planning board agenda and I get it. I still cannot get the agenda for the Board of Selectmen. It says go to, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I do that. I just want to click the button and get the agenda.
Click right on the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The agenda comes up.
The agenda comes up.
It says, ducks.
Might be something with your computer, because it did come up on mine when I pulled it up earlier.
We can give you a lesson, I mean, I'll take the lesson with you. I'm right with you, Larry, so,
Better steel for the stone tablets, that's all I need.
there you go. Any other public comments?
Hi, Jeff Lord, Mason Road. I just want to point something out to the selectmen in the town. We just had our July 4th parade just last week. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but I did hear it was quite successful and there was quite a good attendance. I am aware, though, that it was a very last-minute planning. Something I've been noticing recently is kind of a lack of enthusiasm to get things planned. So I'm not accusing any of you or anything like that. I'm just saying in general, I've been noticing that. One thing of importance to me is coming up next year is our 250th anniversary of our country here. So I recommend, or if there's someone already in progress of this, of maybe putting together a committee. I know for a fact that 50 years ago for the bicentennial, I think it was the Heritage Committee or Heritage Group who really put on a good bicentennial organization. I do know if you go to the library, there's about a 3/4 inch thick book of what they did for that anniversary. And I think we would do our town very good if we could really put something together for that. So I think I recommend maybe putting a meeting or invitation to the town. I know the New Hampshire Farm Museum, the Historical Society and such like that. A lot of good input to be able to put something together for the town for that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other public comments? Okay, I'm seeing none. Announcements in the community and the calendar, please help protect our lakes and drinking water. Clean up your yard waste and your pet waste, please. Up next is new business, department head reports. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Recreation. I want to thank everybody that took the time to come to the summer kickoff. It was awesome. Thank you to the Milton Police and Fire. They did an amazing job all day long and answered people's questions and let them look at their equipment. Both Newt Chapel and Milton Community Church were there with, they had fun stuff going on. They had cotton candy and snow cones for the kids and some arts and crafts for them to do as well. Pack and Troop 155 came, and the Recreation Department had a treasure hunt in the sand, and the kids won prizes, and then they got to run around and have fun with us. We had face painting there, popcorn, and everybody gave us great feedback on what we did. It was a great day. Camp Three Ponds, we're starting our third week. First week, we had 123 campers. And on week 2, we had 103 campers. The Whale Pod attended their first field trip on the 27th to Fun Spot Laconia. And the Milton Fire, Police, and DPW put on a Fun Friday event, a touch-a-truck, and had a blast with the kids. The kids enjoyed themselves with freeze pops and at the end of the day, and it was a great first day at camp for them to finish off their first week. Coming this week, our Sail Pod will be taking their first trip to Palace Theater in Manchester to see a live production of Winnie the Pooh, and they'll go on to Chuck E. Cheese for pizza and arcade fun. Senior bingo is on Tuesdays still. We have a good crowd coming in on that. There's also exercise for seniors on Monday and Tuesdays, chair yoga and yoga stretch, and they're also invited to attend the Wednesday evening Zumba dance if they'd like to. We have Tong Sodu martial arts classes with Sean Burns. They're on Thursday nights at 6 to 8:30 p.m. and Saturday morning from 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. And he has open slots, and the first 2 classes are free for anybody that wants to try it out and just give it a shot. Playground upgrades on Wednesday, July 16th. We will be putting in the new playground. We have a small rock wall climbing apparatus going in, and we're also having the playground court resurfaced. That's been all approved. And we're also putting in a little truck for anybody in a wheelchair or a small child toddler. They can get right down and play on that. The cost of the project is approximately $51,000 and is being totally funded by Camp Three Ponds, not the taxpayers. There'll be a new surfacing brought in, and it should look like a brand-new playground. And that's about all I have. Busy, 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 busy down there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Up next, Police Department.
Chief?
Hi. So the month of June was fairly busy for the police department. We focused on traffic stops and being more present in the downtown area for flow of traffic. Officers were present at the school for many events, including field day, handing out popsicles to both the elementary school and the high school in the last few hot days of school, as well as graduation. Earlier in the year, we applied for the Gene Shaheen grant for portable radios for the town of Milton for a total of $161,000. Last week, I was notified by email of being selected as an awardee of this grant. I am awaiting contact from the grant to see what the next steps are for the and we will be awarded the funds in the spring of 2026. That is a very large amount of money we were able to secure, first leaning on the residents for more funding. The last time the radios were replaced for the police department was in 2013. These radios are crucial for us to communicate with other agencies, dispatch, and each other. So getting that grant for $161,000 is a huge opportunity for the police department. The department had the police department had a bomb threat at the elementary school, which brought in New Hampshire State Police bomb squad. The building was evacuated and searched for any explosives with the use of our Ordinance 19. We are appreciative of the patience of parents of students involved for allowing us to complete the task as necessary prior to announcing all of the details regarding activity at the school. I know it can be nerve-wracking to see a large police presence at the school. However, we disseminated information as fast as we could process it out to parents and the residents. Some may have noticed that the boat patrol is no longer docked at the town beach. We have had a mechanical issue with the motor. The tank within the motor, which houses the oil, has a crack in it and is leaking oil. The manufacturer who built the motor is no longer in business, so getting replacement parts on order to be shipped has been difficult. We are still hopeful we can get that part. To replace the motor, it would cost the town upwards of $15,000. So again, hopefully we can find a replacement part for the tank or a fix for it. July and August will bring more visitors into town. We're prepared for the influx as an agency and look forward to everybody driving safely, obeying state laws and local ordinances. We push the effort to residents if they see something suspicious or dangerous to contact the dispatch center. As always, my office has an open door policy for all residents who want to discuss any matters affecting them directly or as a town as a whole. There has been a large amount of foot traffic on the railroad tracks. I want to remind residents that it is illegal to walk on the railroad tracks, and you will be given a warning, and then you'll be given a citation for walking on the railroad tracks. It's an active railroad, so it's probably not a good idea to walk on an active railroad. That's just me. It's also illegal, so.
Only active twice a day.
Well, it's enough for me, so that's it. Questions?
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, and that's great news on the grant. Thanks for all you do.
Sure, yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Nice to get some radios and save some money.
Yep.
We appreciate it. I'm sure the taxpayers will too.
Yes.
All right, and I second that about the 4th of July parade.
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah, very nice.
great turnout, but could have been better. But, next year, I like that idea. Thank you for doing that.
Up next.
See you later, chief.
Have a good night. Up next. Our truly one and only town clerk.
So just want to start out with the most important news. I was right and you were wrong. And I've been waiting 45 minutes to be able to say that. We did show.
Brian, you okay?
I feel great right now. Like after everything we've been through for the past 3 weeks, it's been worth it just to be able to say that. No, seriously though, starting the quarter out, we were trending down from last year, but we had an incredible June, and we ended up the quarter over $16,000 more in revenue than last year. And that has absolutely nothing to do with taxes. That's all motor vehicle, dogs, beach, boat, all of that other areas of revenue that we do take in. So, but since we're talking about taxes, they were due on Thursday. Apparently there's 409 residents that were not aware of that. In 2025 alone, we are $875,000 delinquent. We are over $2 million delinquent since 2025. So when people want to know why we seem to be in a budget crisis or we're always complaining about money or revenue, that would actually be why. So like I said, 400 residents, actual people themselves with 531 different invoices. So that does include your water, your sewer, and your taxes. But that's from 402. So it's apparently a problem. But so dog licensing, we have sent out civil forfeiture notices. We were made aware this morning that if you go to pay them online, the fees are not calculating correctly. So we will have that resolved tomorrow morning. We just have to call the vendor to get them to, it looks like what's happening is the civil forfeiture is actually being charged twice. So, yeah, so we have been made aware and we will fix it. But those notices can be taken care of here in our office. So, that's about all I have. Just will reiterate that I was right and the town administrator was wrong, in case that was missed.
That's something I am very happy to be wrong about.
Right, I know, that's why we can actually joke about it, because, you know.
That's a good wrong.
Yep. If you gotta be wrong about something.
Be wrong about
Appreciate
something
that.
good.
Yep. So,
Perfect, thank you, Brian.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Since we're talking about, 409 residents, I mean, how do we move forward to, educate these 409 residents that, unfortunately, no one likes to pay taxes, including myself. But how do we educate these 409 residents? Because it's a
It'll be lien notices. It'll be lien notices when we hit the point of, they've got past the point of making payments, then we'll send them the lien notices. We don't want to keep putting liens on people's property.
Well, it costs money.
That's correct. That costs more money to put liens on people's property. But that's the next avenue, is putting liens on people's property, unfortunately. It's not the avenue that I want to take. That's not the avenue that our town clerk wants to take. We don't want to lien anyone's property, and we don't want to tax deed anyone's property. Unfortunately, those are the next steps.
The other piece of it too is for the people at home to understand that, and the people in this room I know, that some that I've worked with, that understand that if we are not collecting that tax money, our tax rates go up because the only way to pay for services is the taxes that you collect. The revenues are supposed to offset what the costs are. If we're not collecting, and as Brian said, $875,000 behind this year alone, over 2 million, and it's actually over the last 5 years or so. It's not something that we want to go after people for, but if we're trying to keep the tax rates down, we can't if we're not collecting the money we need to collect. It is good news, we got the revenues up for June and that on motor vehicles and that, but
Well, that's not gonna
if
offset.
we don't have the taxes, we don't get to pay the county, and that's another one. I mean, we don't have enough money to pay the county. That's a $1.4 million bill coming up in November. If we don't have that, then we have to take out a tax anticipation note, and that costs us even more money.
$40,000.
Yeah. So,
So,
and to go along with that, just to let you know, because that's how the county does their business, through a tax anticipation note, because they don't collect the same rate all year long. They're paying $1 million a year in interest through the county because of tax anticipation notes. So,
you know, I mean, it's the last thing, I'm sure I can speak for all of us, is the last thing we wanna do is deed anybody's homes. I would, I mean, I do not wanna do it, but,
Nope.
but, you know, we have obligations and, you know, we use the services in town. I mean, the schools and all the services, police and fire, and they just don't come for free. And unfortunately, we just need people to do a little better. And if they need to come in and talk to us, please come in and talk to us. We're willing to help and work something out, instead of getting your home tax deeded. So anyways, all right. Up next,
some good news.
on to some good news. Old Home Day
Yep.
proclamation, and Humphrey's gonna read it.
Yep. The Farm Museum came to us a little while ago because, and I'm gonna read about the proclamation, asking the town to support Old Home Day. This is a new thing for us here in town, so put together this proclamation, to the Town of Milton, New Hampshire, Old Home Day, celebrating community history and togetherness. So Jeff, it's gonna be along the lines of what you were talking about. So the proclamation, whereas the Town of Milton, New Hampshire is a community rich in history, culture, and traditions with roots that trace back to its founding years, and whereas Old Home Day is planned to be a cherished occasion that brings together residents, former residents, and visitors to celebrate the enduring bonds of community, honor our shared heritage, and embrace the spirit of togetherness, and whereas this event serves as an opportunity to highlight the unique character and contributions of the Town of Milton, fostering a sense of pride amongst its citizens, and strengthening connections within and beyond our town boundaries, and whereas Old Home Day provides a platform to enjoy family-friendly activities, local artisans' crafts, food, and other festivities that reflect the vibrant and welcoming nature of the Milton's community, and whereas the Town of Milton recognizes the hard work and dedication of volunteers, civic groups, and organizations like the New Hampshire Farm Museum, whose efforts will ensure the success of this special day. Now therefore be resolved that the Town of Milton, New Hampshire does hereby proclaim August 9, 2025 as Old Home Day, encouraging all residents and visitors to join in the celebration, to honor the past, cherish the present, and look forward to the future of our beloved town. In witness thereof, we the Selectmen, on behalf of the Town of Milton, set our hand and cause the seal of the Town of Milton to be affixed on this 7th day of July, 2025. Going to be signed Andrew Rawson, Chair, Matt Morrow, Vice Chair, and Humphrey Williams, Selectman.
Thank you, Humphrey, for doing that.
Yep.
It's exciting news for the Town of Milton and for all the work that the Farm Museum does, and for everybody else. I mean, you get the Historical Society that does a lot, and Cynthia Wyatt on Appleby Road, who does a lot. So it's good news. All right, up next, waste management contracts and discussion. Director Walden.
Good evening.
This is just a renewal of the same contract we've always had with Waste Management. Good for 4 years. The contract itself hasn't changed. What is going to be changing is the pricing. So for this coming year, they're going to keep our municipal solid waste the same price that it's been for the last 4 years. Our demo bulky is going to be going up by about $5 or $6 a ton, which really is a good deal for that first year. But after that, we're going up 4% a year for probably the foreseeable future, at least for this contract. Not a ton, you know, it's about $20,000 over 4 years is what we're going to be looking at as far as MSW. The bigger issue that was addressed was when the rep for Waste Management came in. He told me that they were looking at a pretty definite closure in 2034 of the Rochester facility. So we have 8 years to figure out what to do with all the garbage in town, unless they strike some sort of deal with the city of Rochester that allows expansion of the landfill.
Is it there, though? I don't know if it's even there, is it?
What's that?
Another expansion?
They have property, they can expand, but it's, from what I've been told, they've been getting a lot of pushback from, I'm guessing, the city of Rochester or the residents of the city of Rochester that don't want to see an expansion further into the town. So I can't speak to that as to say, but from what he told me, he said that our town should definitely be planning to look for other places to put our garbage after 2034. So, and I don't foresee anything getting cheaper. I would say as that dump gets closer to its end, that the prices are just going to keep going up, probably more than 4% as it gets closer by the year. And I just thought it would be good to start that conversation now. And I've mentioned in the past that we were approaching 6 figures, and in the next 2 years we're there now. And like I said, it's not going to get any cheaper. If we got to truck our stuff to Massachusetts or even further, it's we're going to have to look at a solution that's good for the taxpayers, because MSW, as we all know, is something that is directly affected by the tax. It directly affects the taxes. There's no fees that the dump charges that covers that. It's all taxpayer generated funds. So.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a glass ball, and I don't have any answers, unfortunately.
No, and I don't think any of us do at this point, but it's a conversation that I think we should at least visit yearly going forward, and come to the table with what we might have for ideas or solutions, or if you hear about another facility opening and we can do some research, or the best case scenario, Waste Management works out a deal. But I don't really see Waste Management in Rochester being a long-term solution. I mean, whatever deal they make could possibly only buy them another 5 or 10 years. So we don't know the specifics of it, unfortunately. But it's definitely a conversation that we, as a town, need to start having.
Right, it's not going away.
I think when my fellow taxpayers in the city of Rochester see the cost it's going to cost them if if the planning board or zoning board blocks Waste Management from expanding, I think there's a lot of people that will show up at Rochester Planning Board and Zoning Board meetings to support it. I know just in the changes that when they made just putting the green barrels at our house, and now we can only fill the green barrels with household and green barrel recycling. There were a lot of people that got mad about that and wanted to see the new wording in the contracts and things of that nature. So I think when they see, number one, the tax dollars that are going to be lost at the city of Rochester without that expansion, and what it's going to cost to now throw your trash away in the city of Rochester, I think there will be a change, but I do agree with Director Walden that that's where we're at, is we have to have a plan. We can't wait until we're 2 years out to then say, oh, here we go. Now here's where we're at, and we have to figure out someplace to go. So if we at least start working looking at a plan for 10 years down the road, 9 years down the road, these are the facilities we can start going to. If they give us a better price, then that's where we go.
Yeah, and I would imagine any of the neighboring facilities are gonna go up on their, supply and demand.
As soon as you start reducing the number of places, the money's gonna go up in
Yeah.
those locations.
And I think our best bet right now, me and Kent looked into it, I think it's about a 2-hour truck into Massachusetts. So every can we haul of MSW, which is sometimes 3 a week, would be a 2-hour, well, so a 4-hour round trip.
Yep.
So which pretty much eats up. So I mean, that would add time to our trucking.
Well, it's gonna add wear and tear on the truck itself.
Oh yeah, wear and tear on the truck, manpower, the whole 9 yards. So it's like I said, it's something that we're going to be pretty vigilant about, looking for different facilities and trying to find some solutions. But like I said, I think it's great to get the conversation started about it and make anybody that's out in YouTube land watching aware. So maybe they tell a neighbor, and maybe a neighbor has an idea and comes to the Board of Selectmen and says, hey.
Good.
So that's all I have. Like I said, the contract is yours to sign. I just thought it would be good to come in and have a little talk about the other things that are involved with it.
With that, before you sit down, I'll make the motion for the chair to sign the contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill,
You've
that's
got
the-
we need the paperwork.
original.
Oh, I have the original. I thought you gave me a copy.
No.
There you go.
Okay, up next, signed ordinance complaint update.
So I met with both the police chief and the public works director. We went over the process on how to deal with sign ordinance violations. They have a plan on how they're going to deal with sign ordinance violations. Obviously, sign ordinance violations are not life safety issues, so they do not rise to the top of the food chain. And they'll be removed and taken down as they come to the top of the food chain when they get to their level of job tasks.
So, moving forward, you know, the town is gonna take care of the signs.
Yep. Both departments are aware of how they need to take care of them through the sign ordinance.
Okay.
The Public Works Department will remove the signs when they either see them or we get a complaint. Public Works Department will create a list for the police department as to where the signs were located. And then the violating companies or persons will be notified, given their warning for the first offense. If there's multiple offenses, then they'll be issued a citation and it'll follow the ordinance as it should.
Okay, thank you.
First and foremost, Andy, I want to thank you guys. I drove by Appleby Road tonight and did not find any signs out there whatsoever. Very, very pleasant surprise. And just so you know, I've done my homework for you guys too. And you're gonna get a big attaboy from the state of New Hampshire on this one. I contacted a lady by the name of Shikari King, who is the supervisor of all outdoor advertising and control for the state of New Hampshire. I want to read you the letter that she sent back to me. I sent her a copy of our sign ordinance and for her review and to talk to me about that. And she did a great job. She said, I wish that more towns and cities took the initiative that you have done. Great job. As far as enforcement issues go, I would suggest contacting the AG's office for more information. I have CC'd Christina Wilson, Assistant Attorney General, who I've worked with in the past on sign issues, and she said, feel free to report any signs ordinance violations on state highways to her, but that she only has one individual that works for her to go about the entire state removing those. And she said that she would appreciate any help that we could provide to them. So I want to give you a copy of this letter from the state because they get it. It's a big attaboy for the town of Milton because what we all went through to get it done.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great night.
I am going to, now, one question on this reporting of an issue. In the sign ordinance itself, it says that the individual's name and a permit number has to be on the sign.
They're supposed to come to us to put signs out.
Right.
And that's
That I understand, Humphrey, and that has always.
That's the part that's been missing.
Right, that's been the issue in the past, because everybody just thinks they'll get a sign, put it up on the telephone pole, and big deal, and be
Somebody
done.
sees a sign that was allowed and
Right.
people start adding more signs, so.
Yep, that they do, and that's exactly why in 2008 I started working with the selectmen to try to control it and at least keep it somewhat under control. But I really do appreciate the work you guys have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, up next, quotes for replacement of the influent metering system.
How's it going?
How are you?
Jason, how you doing?
Good. So last October, we have to get our influent and effluent meters calibrated. The influent, shockingly enough, is dying and is original to plan. The company that makes that is no longer in business, so I went out and got 3 quotes. The first quote we'll start with was A&D Instruments. So I believe it's the Hydro Ranger and the transducer and the digital chart recorder for a grand total of $13,000. I'll just go through them, then I'll tell you what my thoughts are.
Sure.
EII, same thing, flow meter and the chart recorder for a grand total of $13,500. And then the Riddick Environmental is a grand total of $4,619. The first 2 are kind of like the Cadillacs I'm gonna go with. Add them first, put the flow meter in the chart recorder with the effluent, so they're all in nice one little packet. Kind of it is right now, you walk in, you take your numbers down. But I think I would go with the Riddick, the $4,619. The Siemens hydrometer rangefinder is a well-known name in the wastewater. Not only is it's cheaper, but we won't have everything together, but that's fine. I mean, I don't.
Give you what you need when you go in there.
Right, and this will actually give us everything that we need just outside. So that's the one I'd recommend, but it's up to you guys which one you want to try to go with.
Well, you know us.
Yeah, we're gonna go with what you tell us is gonna work for you, so.
Yep. So we'll go with that one.
I will make the motion to go with Riddick Environmental,
All in favor?
and that's $4,619, Amy. Aye.
And where are we gonna get that money from?
It's
So-
going to, it should come from the revolving account.
Well, yeah, I keep forgetting that one. It's the one we took the pumps out of?
Yep, it should come out of the revolving account for wastewater. Yep. So we're revolving.
Okay.
Kind of follow up with the Wright Pierce presentation, was it 2 months ago? Best practices is to camera and vac our sewer mains every 10 years. I haven't found anything down there that's ever been done. Not to say that it hasn't been done. I got a quote from Belmore. I think if we try to just kind of knock this out day at a time, 2 days at a time, because they're quoting me like 21 days to get it all done. So I can try to budget this for the next year. Maybe we can try something now, just to see what the pipes are made out of, see what they're there, how they are. I know in storm events, the water coming in is tripled. I mean, normally we're about 55,000 gallons a day. We peaked at almost 3,000 gallons, 300,000 gallons coming in. That's unheard of. So I think there's a broken pipe, something going on. I think it's on the south end of the town, past Charles Street, because the pumping hours did not go up at Charles Street, so I think it's closer to the plant. I'd recommend 2 to 3 days, 4 days, something like that, just to see if we can get.
And what's the cost for that?
So they kind of break it down. Travel, it's per vehicle, so it's $125 an hour. Their shop in Bedford is an hour and 8 minutes away, so that's just $125. Half day for the camera crew is $900. 8 hours is $1,800. Vac truck is $250 per hour.
4-hour minimum.
So grand total with a travel day is $4,050. No travel day, so they can post up right there at the wastewater treatment facility, come back the next day. It'll be $3,800 for an 8-hour day.
So $3,800 for an 8-hour day?
Plus the there's 2 days.
Looking for about $8,000.
$8,000.
Yeah. For a 2-day.
For 2 days, but I thought you said 4 days.
No, they quoted us to do 21 days to do the whole system.
So do a couple days just to go through on that side.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
and then going forward, maybe we take it out of the revolving fund, but then going forward.
You're gonna go from Charles Street down, or what's the plan?
Yeah, I'll try to go from Charles Street down, and then I'd like to do that cross-country main. It goes underneath the railroad tracks, and then follows down 125. Just get that chunk out of the way. I've heard in the past that Dale had issues out there, so they had to weld the cover shut because his kids popped it open and filled it with rocks or something like that.
Wonderful.
Right, so I haven't really done much research on that, but they need to get into each manhole. Just looking for advice, what you guys are thinking, or what you wanna do, or.
I mean, I'm fine for a couple of days, if that's what you think.
Yeah.
Definitely gotta find out what's going on, so if we're getting that kind of volume during the storm, because we're not getting more sewerage during the storm.
Right, and I just wanna reiterate to everyone, any storm water coming off of your house should not be going in the sewer system in your basement.
Correct.
Any sump pumps, they should be going outside to the sanitary sewer.
Yeah.
Outside that goes to the river.
Filtration system shouldn't be going through either, so, because that's
Correct.
just gonna be dumping all of that back in, so.
Correct.
I mean, do you think it's gonna be more than 2 days?
Yeah, like I said,
Like, just for, like, from going from Charles Street down to the plant? Like, cause I don't want, cause if we say, give you 2 days, and then you're like,
You don't
oh,
get it.
I need another day or something. I mean, maybe we could make it up to 4 days, if,
yeah, and then we'll shoot for that.
shoot for less.
Yeah.
Shoot for less, of course, but if you need the, cause we, you know,
3876, a little over 15 for the 4 days.
I'd say no more than 3 days. That'll keep it under $10,000.
Okay, so why don't we shoot for 3? I'll make a motion to go for 3 days with that, Jason, just let us know the timing on it.
Right.
Obviously, part of that is they're gonna have to make sure that they've got access and
Right.
gotta be looking around the Route 125 area there, so.
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, perfect.
Any word on that manhole cover?
Yeah, I've been in contact with him. I did the dig safe. Those are good for 30 days. That's what he told me to do. So that's good for 30 days, he said. So I'm hoping
Same fun.
30 days.
Revolving, sewer revolving.
Thank you.
Thank you. So going forward next year, budget season, do you want me to try to put in 4 days to my budget?
Yeah, the best thing we can do is get that all ironed out so that we know where it's gonna be. Remember when I asked you about the miscellaneous type of items?
Yeah.
This is one of those ones that we haven't covered in the past. It'd be good to get a sheet on it, so.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Up next, quotes for cameras and vacuum of sewer main. Oh, that's,
It's the same one.
okay, sorry. Milton ARP Community Challenge Grant awarded to audit sidewalks in the village of downtown.
Yeah. So, we've got a video online right now. We did receive a grant that'll help us do some pre-planning to determine what's gonna happen with the sidewalk areas down there. So I know our town planner, Rich and myself went down to the park. We did a little video clip to talk about it, so it is out there. The idea is for us to look at all this, they're gonna give us the grant to go through and evaluate all the sidewalks all the way into the downtown area. The idea, obviously, making them a lot more accessible, making them a lot, I mean, we don't want kids, we know what it's like on Dawson Street and a few others. Hard to get down there without ending up out on the street, and we don't want them walking out on the street. So, plus the areas around downtown, sidewalks and all that can use work. So this grant will give us the ability to turn around and figure out what the costs are gonna be in the future for doing that, but it'll do a complete evaluation on all those sidewalk areas is the intent. One of the things that we're gonna be looking for down the line though is, which I know this will come as a surprise, but we're gonna be looking for some volunteers for a committee to try to help us figure out how to best go about doing that in the long run. So we haven't got the time frame yet.
So we won't actually need a committee, we'll just need volunteers that are part
Volunteers to go
of
through.
the
Doing the research on it.
AARP community.
Yep.
We're working with SRPC on this grant.
Yep.
So SRPC is gonna do most of the work, but in the future, we will be looking for volunteers that are part of the AARP community to help us do that walk, because we are looking for some of the mobility issues that are on the sidewalks. So most of the sidewalk that we'll be looking at runs from Dawson Street and 125, hopefully all the way to 125 and Depot Pond Road. We won't be going up Silver Street or Steeple and School Street. We probably won't be going up those right now, unless we have the time to expand it up those.
And we did just get Silver Street fixed.
Probably not, because we don't, the
Those
amount,
are the most
we only have
important
about
sidewalks, really.
we only have $2,400. So we have to see how far that $2,400 is gonna get us. And the Dawson Street sidewalk that comes out of the village is the sidewalk that has right now the highest mobility issues. Obviously Elm Street, Steeple, and then School Street, those sidewalks have a vertical climb issue, not so much of a curbing issue or a width issue. So if we have the money, we will try to expand up to some of those other issues.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Are we all set there?
Yes.
Up next is the assess and review tax abatement requests.
Reading these. Reading these as we go.
So your first one is map 42, lot 189.
And I'm just gonna read the, I'm just gonna do the bottom of it, right?
Have a good night, Jeff. Thank you.
You can do the bottom, or you can do a little bit of
Yeah,
information above.
We'll go through, and basically, I'm gonna read through what Avatar's recommendations are on this for us. So according to Avatar, and again, on this particular lot, they said that it carried a total assessed value of $220,400. The owner had submitted, I'll just do a quick summary, had submitted an abatement request asserting the dwelling requires significant repairs and should not be classified in very good condition. So they went back out, did an inspection, and said, based on my inspection, I find that the current classification of very good condition does not accurately reflect the property's state. The interior had not been renovated in a substantial amount of time. General wear and tear resulted in deferred maintenance issues, and there's some structural concerns. So accordingly, they recommend adjusting the condition rating to fair, and that adjustment will result in a reduced assessed value of $65,900 to revise the total assessment to $154,500. So they recommend an abatement granted on the $65,900. Reading that, I'll make a motion to go with Avatar's assessment to grant the abatement.
All in favor?
Aye. And we just have to sign these.
Sign both of them?
Yeah, we gotta sign them both.
Can I just see that for 1 second? Thank you. You can go, move on to the next one.
So the next one, with all abatements when under state statute, if you abate one piece of property, both properties have to be reviewed. Both property had abatements filed for them, map 32, lot 121, and map 32, lot 115, sublot 1. Both the yellow copies are in here.
Okay. All right, so on the first part, 0.13 acres of waterfront property, cottage-style dwelling, carried a total assessed value of $530,900. After reviewing both the subject property and comparable property at 39 Saltbox Road is where it says, I find that while the subject property has not been insulated and lacks permanent heating, it has undergone more significant updates, including modern siding, windows, and roofing materials. These improvements contributed additional value to the property. However, upon further analysis, I observed that other cottages of similar size have received a just less than 50% size adjustment on their structure values. Applying a comparable adjustment to the subject results in a value reduction of $79,900 for a revised assessment of $451,000. So they recommend the abatement of $79,900 on that.
What one's this?
This is on Saltbox Road, map 32, lot 121. And there's a second one on this too. So there's two for this.
32,
Yep.
121, and
And
32,
150.
lot 115, sublot 1.
Yep. So on this second part of it, it says it's still talking about the same 0.13 acres, but this says improve with a garage outbuilding resulting in a total assessed value of $165,900. Shares waterfront access to townhouse pond with other lots in the neighborhood. Owners possess two adjacent identical lots with land values individually totaling $75,800. They contend that all three properties would have similar land values with the exception of the subject property, which contains the garage structure. After reviewing the documents provided, the original subdivision plan, current site conditions, I agree with the taxpayer's position. The adjacent parcels had previously received a negative 50% adjustment on their land condition rating due to their size. The subject property should similarly receive this adjustment. However, it should be noted that the subject lot is improved with the garage and site improvements support a slightly higher valuation compared to the two vacant parcels. So applying the appropriate adjustment results in a reduction of $41,600 for a total assessment of $124,300. So they recommend the abatement be granted for $41,600. So I'll make a motion to agree with Avatar on the two abatements.
All in favor?
Aye. There should be more than one. And I only saw- I don't know why this one only has one.
Because they're both on the
Yeah,
same
but-
document. Because they're both.
No, the other one,
51 and
I'm saying the other
52.
one, there were two, so yeah. Usually she's got a cover.
Ready for the next one?
Sure.
map 43, lot 54.
Okay, hold on 1 second, to sign this. All right, on this one, taxpayer owns 2.09 acres of land improved with a manufactured home which was constructed in 1983. The home exhibits deferred maintenance typical of its age, along with more extensive maintenance needs. The combined land and building assessment totals $210,500. The owners have expressed concern that the home is in disrepair and contend that it cannot reasonably support the assessed value. The property, currently reflects a 38% depreciation applied to the structure to account for both age and the expected condition associated with the homes of this vintage. In addition, an extra 30% depreciation has been applied to recognize the extensive maintenance issue present. In total, the structure receives a 68% depreciation adjustment to appropriately reflect its current condition. After reviewing comparable sales of similar properties, including those exhibiting significant deferred maintenance, I find no justification for further reduction in value. Recommend abatement be denied. I will make a motion to agree with Avatar's assessment to deny the abatement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next one is two properties as well. It is map 9, lot 37, map 9, lot 83. Start with this one first, and then that one.
Okay. So taxpayers own 1.16 acres of land improved with a church-style structure and a detached garage carrying a total assessed value of $731,000. Property was purchased in 2023 along with the adjoining lot for parking, map 9, lot 83, for a combined sale price of $319,000. The owners assert that the property is now being used for residential purposes and contend that the current assessed value is too high for its given current use. As part of their application, the taxpayers also submitted a recent sale of another church property in Alton to support their opinion of market value. After reviewing the property record card and making adjustments to reflect residential land use and residential style construction rather than institutional use, I find that the revised assessment of $457,900 is appropriate. This adjustment represents a reduction of $273,100 from the prior assessed value. While the revised value remains above the taxpayer's purchase price, it's important to consider the nature of the original transaction. Prior owner of the property had acquired it at no monetary cost, which is not uncommon in the case of transfers involving religious or charitable organizations. As such, the subsequent sale price may not reflect the full market exposure or the current contributory value of the improvements when used as a residence. In other words, the 2023 sale price likely reflects a unique transfer circumstance rather than open market value. So based on this, they recommend a revised assessment of $457,900 and the abatement be granted for $273,100. The second part of that is the 0.3 acres of vacant land previously used as overflow parking for an adjacent church has a total assessed value of $97,600. Review of the property prompted a concurrent review of this parcel. It was determined that the property had been assigned a 50% appreciation factor due to its prior commercial use under the previous ownership. As the parcel is no longer used for commercial purposes, I recommend removing the commercial use appreciation and adjusting the condition factor to 100, consistent with standard valuation practices for similar vacant residential lots. These changes result in a value reduction of $32,500 and revised assessment of $65,100. So they recommend the abatement for $32,500. So I recommend approving the abatements as Avatar has indicated.
All in favor?
Aye.
Your next one is map 49, lot 9.
All right. Taxpayers own 2.21 acres of land improved with multiple structures, including an older residential building converted into apartments, a large metal frame structure used for farmers markets, and a garage service building that is leased to tenants. Total assessed value of the property is $971,600. Taxpayers' agent has submitted an abatement request claiming that the buildings are outdated and that the apartment conversion was of poor quality. Specifically, it was noted that the apartment layout requires passage through certain bedrooms to access others. It's important to note that the apartment structure currently reflects a 52% depreciation adjustment, which appropriately accounts for both the building's age and its substandard configuration. The structure's quality rating also factors in the nature of the conversion and its functional limitations. The agent further contends that the service garage is not a fully metal building, but instead a wood frame with steel supports. This has already been recognized and documented. The property record card correctly identifies the framing material as wood. Additionally, the agent indicated that the property's driveways and parking areas are not paved but consist of dirt and gravel. This condition is likewise properly reflected on the property card, which identifies all access and parking areas as dirt gravel. Taxpayer's agent has made comparisons to commercial and industrial properties located in dedicated and industrial zones, arguing that the subject property should carry a lower valuation. However, it's important to clarify that the predominant use of the subject property is rental income generation, similar to many commercial properties. The fact that the subject is located within a residential zoning district does not, in and of itself, signify, diminish its contributory value. In contrast, properties located in industrial parks are assessed similarly based on their utility and income-generating potential. The subject's rental use provide comparable value enhancement relative to its location, and its land assessment is consistent with other properties of similar intensity. They recommend against the abatement, so I'll make a motion to deny the abatement based on Avatar's assessment.
I do not second. I don't agree with that one, personally.
I don't either.
I don't see anywhere what the taxpayer is looking for as far as an adjustment, but I just don't agree with that.
Can we table this?
Yep.
You want to send that one back to Avatar?
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, there's nothing in here telling us what they're looking for.
I mean, I had a conversation with this particular property today, and what he was telling me makes sense, but, and they said that they think, 825, that's what he suggested to me, would be fair, because the building does need a lot of work. I mean, if you,
Have them go back to Avatar to relook at it. And then, because there's nothing here.
what do you think, Matt?
I think 825 is a bit of a stretch. I don't have
I haven't seen the whole property. I know where it is, obviously.
Mhm.
I just think 825 might be a bit of a stretch.
All right, let's send it back, and, unless you have,
My fear is I'm not an assessor, so I'm not gonna.
Exactly. I'm not either. I think that value right there, the 971, is high, but I think 825 is a bit of a stretch.
okay,
Personally.
send it back, and we'll, readdress this, at the next meeting.
Okay.
I was just going by what the particular person who owns this.
Okay, can I just get a motion from you guys to have this property go back to Avatar for
Yep, I'll make that motion.
reassessment?
I'll second that one.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, next property is map 42, lot 10.
All right, so the taxpayer owns 16.02 acres of land improved with a manufactured-style dwelling with a total assessed value of $373,200. Significant portion of the property's assessment is attributed to its additional frontage along Silver Street, which under typical circumstances would allow for the subdivision of additional lots for sale or development. Taxpayer contends that the presence of water tower right-of-way and a power line easement over the property substantially limits, if not eliminates, its developmental potential. Upon inspection of the property, I find that the taxpayer's concern warrant further consideration. Property is currently assessed based on the potential to create 4 additional lots reflecting 800 feet of usable frontage. However, after reviewing the impact of the water tower right-of-way, power line transmission easement, it's apparent that only 1 additional lot could reasonably be developed due to both physical constraints and availability of frontage. Accordingly, I recommend reducing the assessed frontage from 800 feet to 200 feet to reflect the reduced subdivision potential. This adjustment results in a reduction of $64,800 in assessed value, revising the total assessment to $308,400. Recommend an abatement granted on the $64,800 value difference. I'll make a motion to move forward with the abatement.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, here you go, Matt.
No, this is an individual. Next one is map 23, lot 73.
Taxpayer owns property with a total assessed value of $593,800 as of April 1st, 2024. The taxpayers claim the assessment is excessive based on Zillow estimate of $401,800 and a 2022 appraised value of $393,000. They contend the property should be assessed closer to the $401,800 Zillow estimate rather than the current assessment. Taxpayers provided only a Zillow zestimate of $401,800 and a 2022 appraisal valued at $393,000 to support their abatement request. No additional market evidence, recent comparable sales, or professional analysis was submitted. The 2022 appraisal is approximately 2 years old relative to the April 1st, 2024 assessment date. Taxpayers' reliance on Zillow's estimate raises significant credibility concerns given established legal precedent. Taxpayers' evidence fails to support their requested reduction and when properly analyzed actually contradicts their claim. It says New Hampshire Supreme Court in the matter of Tammy Rakowski and Shane Rakowski, 168 New Hampshire 57, 2015, held that Zillow's zestimate is not capable of accurate and ready determination by resort to sources whose accuracy cannot reasonably be questioned, and found reversible error when a trial court relied upon zestimates for property valuation. Accordingly, the zestimate cannot be considered credible evidence of market value. The 2022 appraisal, while potentially more credible than zestimate, is significantly outdated for the April 1st, 2024 assessment date. Advertised paired sales analysis of properties that sold in both 2020 and 2023 documented average monthly appreciation of 1.45%. When this appreciation rate is applied to the taxpayer's $393 appraisal over the 24-month period of time, the adjusted value becomes approximately $563,000, much closer to the current assessment than the taxpayer's claim of $401,800. Additionally, the older appraisal may have had methodology issues regarding comparable selection and adjustments that would further support a higher value. The current assessment of $593,800 is well supported by recent comparable sales, including Northeast Pond Road, Micah Terrace, and St. James Avenue, which accurately reflect market conditions as of the assessment date. After reviewing the taxpayer's evidence and applying proper market analysis, the current assessment of $593,800 is well supported by credible market data and taxpayers' own evidence when properly adjusted for market appreciation. Recommend the abatement be denied. I make the motion to agree with Avatar and deny.
I don't. I don't agree with it. I mean, how can you go from $31,300 to $300,000?
What?
Well, it says right here. I'm on,
There's no 31,000.
isn't this,
No. This is Bolin Road. I don't know what you
we
want.
didn't do number 23? I thought you said this was number 23.
23, lot 73. No, map 23, this is number 22 on your.
Oh. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, it didn't go from 30,000. It
I'm
didn't
like,
go from.
how does that work? Like, yeah, I
They
just,
found oil on the land.
perfect. Really?
Yeah, so anyways,
All right.
with that in mind, again, I'll make my motion to say I'll go along with Avatar's request to deny.
I guess I'll second that one. Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
I just, I don't know. Thank you.
Okay, your next one is map 38, lot 118.
This was number 23. Okay.
Okay, I just,
And I don't know where you got the 30, but anyways, it says the taxpayers own island property with a total assessed value of $411,000, consisting of a building valued at $112,200 and land valued at $313,700. Property is accessible only by boat and presents unique challenges associated with island living. Taxpayers argue that the assessment should be reduced to account for the difficulties of transporting materials to and from the island, waste disposal limitations, and higher insurance costs associated with island properties. Taxpayers provided general assertion about the challenges of island living, including boat-only access creating transportation difficulties, increased costs for materials and services, waste disposal, that's repeated. While no specific documentation such as contractor quotes or insurance premium comparisons was provided, the taxpayers argue that these inherent limitations of island property should be reflected in a lower assessment compared to mainland waterfront properties with similar amenities. Taxpayers' arguments regarding island-specific challenges are well-founded and supported by established real estate valuation principles. Island properties face documented functional and economic obsolescence due to access limitation, including restricted buyer pools limited to those capable of boat operation, island logistics management, significantly higher transportation costs for all materials and services, increased insurance premiums. I'm not going to keep reading. Basically, after careful consideration of these factors, a 40% reduction has been applied to both land and water values to account for the cumulative impact of these island-specific limitations. Based on the assessment of the island-specific challenges and their impact on property value, revised assessment of $383,500 accurately reflects the property's market value considering its unique limitations and access challenges, and they recommend an abatement be granted on the $27,500 value difference. I'll make a motion to approve the abatement according to Avatar.
I will second that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Your next one is map 38, lot 40.
All right. Taxpayers own waterfront property with 912 square feet of living space in good condition with a slightly developed waterfront featuring a small clearing and beach area assessed at $458,000. The taxpayers also own two additional properties, map 38 lot 108 assessed at $88,400 and map 38 lot 109 assessed at $18,500 for a total assessment of $564,900 across all three properties. The taxpayers claim that map 38 lot 40 should be valued at only $170,000 using neighboring property as their sole comparable. Taxpayers provided only one comparable property support their requested reduction, 286 St. James Avenue, which is assessed at $350,000. However, this comparable contradicts rather than supports their valuation claim. The comparable property is a camp in very poor condition with 1,304 square feet of living space and completely natural waterfront, yet it's assessed at $350,000, more than double their requested $170,000 valuation for their smaller but better conditioned property with developed waterfront amenities. Significantly, the taxpayers failed to disclose they purchased all three properties together in the revaluation year for $579,000 total, which provides direct market evidence contradicting their abatement request. Their purchase price of $579,000 for all three properties in revaluation year demonstrates the total assessment of $564,900 is accurate. So I'm going to go down, get to the bottom of this one here. So after reviewing the taxpayer's purchase price evidence and comparable property analysis, the current assessment of $458,000 for map 38 lot 40 is well supported, and they recommend denying the abatement. I make a motion to deny according to Avatar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next one is map 33, lot 39.
Taxpayers own waterfront property on Townhouse Pond with 50 feet of frontage on .14 acres consisting of two separate buildings with a total assessed value of $833,100. The first building is a conventional structure with one bedroom, two bathrooms, and 1,344 square feet of living space. Second building is a Cape-style dwelling with a full upper floor, one studio bedroom, one bathroom, and 896 square feet of living space. Taxpayers provided an opinion of value of $706,000 supported by a third-party appraisal on 2/28/25. The third-party appraisal dated 2/28/25 opines a value of $706,000 using three comparable sales. 69 Micah Terrace sold on 3/10/2023 for $675,000 was adjusted to $684,600. 13 Utah Way sold on 3/28/23 for $735,000 was adjusted to $699,50, and 20 Heidelway Lane that sold on 6/30/2023 for $735,000 was adjusted to $776,350. The appraisal used the sales comparison approach but failed to time trend any of the sales from 2023 to the February 2025 appraisal date. Additionally, the appraisal date of 2/28/25 is nearly 11 months after the 4/1/24 assessment date being challenged. The third-party appraisal contains fundamental methodological, that's not even the right word, errors that render it unreliable for assessment purposes. Most critically, the appraiser failed to time trend the comparable sales from 2023 to account for market appreciation, which represents a basic violation of standard appraisal methodology. Using the documented 1.45% monthly appreciation rate for paired sales, analysis conducted for the revaluation of the appraiser's adjusted comparable values should be time trended to the 4/1/24 assessment date. The 69 Micah Terrace adjustment to $821,013 months, Utah Way to approximately $830,000 in 12 months, and the Hideaway Lane adjusted to approximately $885,000 in 9 months. These property time-trended values support the current assessment of $833,100 or potentially higher, contradicting the appraiser's $706,000. So after reviewing third-party appraisal and correcting it for methodological errors, the current assessment of $833,100 is well supported by properly analyzed market data, accurately reflects the value as of the 4/1/24 assessment date. Recommend the abatement be denied. I'll make a motion to agree with Avatar.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next one and last one is map 33, lot 84.
All right. Taxpayer owns property with an assessed value of $409,900 that benefits from shared water access like many other properties not directly on the water along St. James Ave. The assessment records describe the water access as 50 feet wide with an estimate, which was estimated from an old survey depicting the lots and access points as extensions of roads down to the water. The taxpayer contests this access description and requests an assessment reduction of just over $40,000 based on corrected access measurements. The taxpayer provided a portion of the survey demonstrating that the actual water access width is 10 feet rather than 50 feet recorded in the assessment records. This survey evidence appears to be more accurate and current than the old survey used to estimate the original 50-foot measurement based on an apparent road extension to the water. The taxpayer argues that this significant difference in access width should result in a substantial reduction in their property assessment to reflect a more limited water access benefit. While the taxpayer correctly identified an error in the assessment records regarding access width, this administrative error does not affect the property's market value or justify an assessment reduction. The assessment of $409,900 was derived from comparable sales analysis conducted during the revaluation, and all sales used in this analysis had similar access of 10 feet wide access points. This means the market value already reflects the actual access conditions regardless of how the access was described in the assessment records. The sales comparison approach captured the true market value of the properties with limited 10-foot water access, making the market analysis accurate despite the descriptive error in the records. The assessment records should be corrected to show the accurate 10-foot access width for proper documentation and transparency, but this administrative correction does not change the underlying market value that was established through analysis of actual sales data from similarly situated properties. Based on survey evidence and market analysis showing the comparable sales reflected similar access conditions, the current assessment of $409,900 accurately represents market value for the properties with 10-foot shared water access. While the assessment records will be corrected to reflect the access width, I recommend the abatement be denied. I will agree with Avatar and deny the abatement. My motion.
All in favor?
Aye. Eyes are crossed.
We all set, Richard, on abatements?
We are.
Okay, up next, event permits. I see none.
We don't have any event permits. Did you get a chance to talk to the Farm Museum about the car show?
I did, and they were gonna come in and make it right.
I have not seen it.
Okay, I will reach out to her to make sure they come in tomorrow,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
But I did talk to John about it, and he said that I know they've been down there building a lot of new corrals or fences and stuff. I maybe just lost,
I know they're prepping for the attempt to move the schoolhouse this year too, so.
Yeah. So, but I will run it by him again. I told him, he said he'd take care of it, but.
Okay.
So, okay, old business? Anything?
The only thing I just want to touch on under old business, and I know I've touched on this earlier this year, is the phone system. So we came into work this morning, as the board knows, and the phone system didn't work.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So we couldn't call out, we couldn't receive calls in, and we couldn't even get in, I couldn't get in as the administrator of the phone system to the actual server of the phone system. So we had to have Harbor Networks log in and try to fix something. We were able to get it back up and running, and it is back up and running now, so we are monitoring it just to try and figure out what the errors are or what caused it to go down. I'm hoping it was just a glitch and it just needed to be restarted, and that's what it needed. So that is something we are gonna have to put in the budget next year, as we all already know, so we're gonna have to work on that process.
Okay. All right, nothing else under old business that we need to talk about?
No.
Okay. Communications, received none.
We did not receive any communications.
Other business that may come before the board?
I don't have anything.
Does anybody else? Okay, approval of the minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of June 16th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comments pertaining to topics previously discussed. Oh, yeah, come right up, Larry.
Lord, this has just been a wonderful, dull evening.
Thank you for that.
No, the absolute, I hope that more than 3 people are watching this, because I have not seen a better explanation of the careful documentation and open process that Avatar has used to establish assessments on properties. The Zestimate, the quote about how Zestimate had no standing in court was beautiful. The time framing, the 1.5% rise in appreciated value
Per month, yeah.
per month, wonderful. I did chuckle. Somebody who buys an island property, and then there's a joke about the guy who bumps off his parents and throws himself on the mercy of the court because he has no family. The self-imposed challenge of owning an island property, yeah. From back in my psychology work, people are more upset than somebody is beating them in the system than everybody is equally screwed. And this is just an excellent example of just the equal treatment, the careful documentation. For myself, the name of Roy Pauly, who was a civil engineer down in New York State, who computed my property at 74.96 acres. No, I did not qualify for the additional taxes of 3/4 of an acre. Thank you, Roy. Stuff here. New Hampshire has really never recovered from the Erie Canal. The Illinois wheat fields, the Wisconsin forests did us in. About 1920, 1923 was the first year that the state of New Hampshire plowed its state highways. My father graduated from Dartmouth as a civil engineer in 1922, had to leave the state, go down to New York City and work on the subway system. Married a girl from Brooklyn. He was down in Brooklyn, same time as David Pay. Dawson Street sidewalks, wonderful. Need to mention the railroad track is close to deadly. If you go back and think and talk to people, I will not mention anything I know. There's a person, amputation, due to being on the railroad tracks at the wrong time in the wrong place. It is deadly. If there were a traffic stop sign on Dawson Street, I would be happy for the kids walking down Dawson Street. And New Hampshire Farm Museum, Old Time Farm Day. Back in 2018, when Rachel was still alive, we started out with ice harvesting and a mule wagon up to the Farm Museum to harvest and save the ice. Chris Jacobs and I did an old house tour, bus provided by the school district. And the myth of Salmon Falls, the giant eagle lived up on the top of Mount Washington. Every day it flew down to the ocean to catch the giant salmon. And when it got to Milton, it was the talon's grief. The salmon dropped, blocked the falls. And that's how, it's not Tenerife, it's salmon's grief from the large eagle. It was a wonderful trip. I hope people come back. Old home days started in the 1920s to try to bring people who had to leave the state for economic reasons back to visit home and possibly return. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. Expenditure report.
The expenditure report looks good. The ambulance is expected to be delivered later this week.
Oh, nice.
So with that, the board has already made motion to purchase the ambulance. So we will be issuing the check later this week to purchase the ambulance.
That's good news.
To pay for it. So we're expecting it hopefully by the end of the week.
Now, they're taking the old one, they traded that. Am I correct on that?
No, I don't think so.
All what you guys did with the old
I
one.
don't think,
but
it wasn't traded to them, the
I'll find
manufacturer.
out from the chief, but it is coming out of service. It's not, we're not gonna have 3 ambulances.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we've decided what.
We didn't decide what to do. I think we said we'd sell it or whatever the heck it was, but.
Yeah, I don't think it was even, other than coming out of service, I don't think anything was discussed on what was gonna happen with it.
I'll double check with the chief and get an answer to you.
All right. I mean, yeah. It's no, I'm not gonna lose sleep, but I thought we traded it in, but, because they're
Yeah,
not
we
worth
can't
anything.
No, we can't to them anyways, not to these guys.
So one thing I would like the board to do is make a motion to transfer the money from the fire department's account to the town's general fund account, because the check will come out of the general fund to make that payment, and then we'll need to remove that money from
The
the revolving account and put it back into the general fund, and I don't really want to wait 2 weeks to do I think it's $214,000 it has to come
I
out.
will make a motion to move the money from the revolving account to the general fund to cover the cost.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I,
Yes.
one minute more. Regarding the celebration for 2026, right now, there is one of the oldest houses in downtown Milton at the corner of Dawson and Silver. It needs to be attended to so it does not deteriorate more and so that it looks better for the upcoming celebration. there has to be some way for the Board of Selectmen, without incurring a liability of the town, to access volunteers either through the townhouse committee or through the Historical Society to try to improve that property, again, without liability to the town, and just keeping it more attractive for our upcoming celebrations. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take that under advisement. All right, so up next, we talked about the expenditure report. I
Yeah, we
lost-
just did, yeah.
Okay, town administrator.
Your next meeting is July 21st. At that meeting, New Hampshire DOT, Anthony Putin from New Hampshire DOT will be coming in to talk with the board to answer your questions about Winding Road Bridge. The discrepancies from the state's documentation that we received, HEB's documentation that we received, and then the information that we received from some of the other bridge subcontractors that we've talked to. So hopefully you guys will have some questions for him, and he can answer those questions for you in reference to both the cost differences and the permitting issues and those type of things, is why somebody like Hanson Bridge can tell us they can put a bridge in for between $500,000 and $700,000, and why engineering firms are telling us it's $2.4, $2.7 million. I'm hoping he can answer those questions for you, and he can at least give you the insight from New Hampshire DOT's standpoint as to why those costs are what they are and why some people can put them in cheaper than what other people can. Other than that,
Be a very good meeting.
The audit has started for, we're getting 22 and 23 done right now, and then we will get 24 done hopefully by the end of this year.
Nice.
So
Okay.
my goal is to have us, by the end of this year, we are 100% caught up with all of the audits that the town has been behind on. So that way, when we roll into 26, we are just required to do 2025.
1 year at a time.
1 year at a time. I don't want the town to be behind any longer. I want us to be doing the audit that we're supposed to be doing, not multi-years behind.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
For you? Selectmen's comments.
Glad to see the parade keep growing. For anybody that did see it, glad to see it keep growing.
Good seeing the videos and all that, too. Just for your information, I gave Rich the preliminary copy for our 2026 operating budget. We haven't got obviously, we don't have the default or anything, but the file's all ready, and that all closed out. Capital improvement, we got a new format for how we're gonna do that, which is gonna simplify it and speed up the process. Those forms went out to the members. So our next meeting, we'll actually have an evaluation on what the top items are already.
Nice.
Which is a few months ahead.
Hmm.
So, that'll work.
That's good. Good news.
That's all I got.
I don't really have anything, so, other than, I guess, I know, down at the town beach, everybody's been working hard down there, and I just wanna thank everybody for their hard work, and through town, I guess. We got a lot of good employees here, and, hopefully we can retain them, so, just wanna thank them all for their hard work.